A common question I get is, why do I get pain in my knee when bending it? And that actually is quite a loaded question, but I'm going to answer it as best as I can in kind of a broad video. Now, if you find this video helpful, give it a like or thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you get notified of our future videos. So if you're having pain in your knee when bending it, the first question would be, where does it hurt? Do you get pain on the outside of your knee when bending it, pain in the back of your knee when bending it, pain on the inside of your knee when bending it, or pain on the front of your knee when bending it? And each of those is going to have a different cause and a different solution. So let's start with pain in the back of the knee when you're bending it. Now, there are two terms that we should probably go through first. One is active bending and one is passive bending. So active bending is when you're actively using your muscles to bend the knee. For example, like if you were doing this or using a leg curl machine at the gym, where you're using your hamstring muscles to produce force to bend your knee. The other part would be passive bending. For example, if someone else was stretching your knee and bending it, a partner or a physical therapist, or if you have your foot planted on something and you're moving your body and your knee's just bending as a result. That's more of a passive bending. So if you have pain actively bending your knee and that pain's on the back of the knee, the chances are it's a hamstring problem. The hamstring muscles in the back of your knee hurt when you're using them to produce the force to bend your knee. Now, most often that's actually going to manifest as pain either on the outside or the inside of the knee where those hamstring tendons attach. But sometimes it can actually occur in the muscle belly, particularly if you've had a hamstring strain. Now, if you get pain in the back of your knee with passive bending, for example, like if you're squatting down or if you're getting into a really low squat like that, or if your knee is bent all the way back like this, where you're not really using your hamstring muscles to bend the knee, something else is bending the knee and something's getting compressed in the back. That can be either a meniscus problem or a problem with your sciatic nerve, or it can actually be something called a Baker's cyst, where there's a little fluid-filled sac that develops in the back of the knee. And I've got a whole other video on what you can do to solve those problems if you have pain in the back of the knee when bending it. Now, the next situation would be that you have pain on the outside of the knee when bending it. And the most common cause of that is something called IT band syndrome, or sometimes it's called runner's knee, because it's really common in runners or other people who do repetitive bending and straightening of their knee during a physical activity. There's a long tendon that runs from your hip down the side of your leg and over your knee. It attaches right underneath the outside of the knee. And so when you're repetitively bending and straightening your knee as you run or walk or do some other repetitive activity, that IT band actually comes forward in front of the knee when you straighten the knee and comes backwards into the back part of the knee as you bend it. So that repetitive bending and straightening causes the IT band to roll back and forth over the outside of the knee joint. And if it's stiff, or more particularly if the muscles around it and attaching to it are stiff, it can create compression as it slides back and forth over the widest part of the knee. Now, if that's the problem, then obviously the solution would be to get it more flexible. Now, there are lots of people who try to stretch their IT band or roll it with a foam roller, and that rolling can be helpful, but really the IT band is a long, thick, dense piece of fascia, kind of like a tendon, and you really can't stretch it very well. So the more important thing to get the pain on the outside of your knee to stop hurting when bending and straightening it is making sure that the muscles in the hip are not too tense, making the knee, the IT band stiff, or that you're not rotating the knee inwards. Because when you rotate the knee inwards like that, it stretches that IT band over the outside of the knee, and it can cause some compression and cause the IT band to become inflamed. Now, for more information on that, I'll link to another video about pain on the outside of the knee that you can reference more. Now, if your pain with bending is on the inside of the knee, that is more common actually with the active bending, like I mentioned earlier, where you're using your hamstring muscles to bend the knee. The inner hamstring muscles, particularly one called the semitendinosus, it comes from the back of your knee and wraps around just to the inside part of the knee. Now, if you're bending your knee against resistance, for example, doing a leg curl or doing something else that requires you to forcefully bend your knee, you can get a tendonitis where that semitendinosus muscle attaches to the front inside of the knee. You can also get that repetitively when you're walking. For example, if you bend your knee and that tendon gets inflamed from putting too much force on it. Now, the last thing that we mentioned is pain on the front of your knee when you're bending the knee. That more commonly happens with a passive bending, and particularly a bending where you're bending the knee quite a lot, where the muscles in the front of the knee get stretched tight and pulled over the knee. And if that's the problem, then you want to stretch out the muscles in the thigh, your quadricep muscles. Now, there's several ways to do that. The most common one that people see is bending the leg up like this, and that's an okay way to stretch it. But if you notice, there's a lot of bend in your back. So there are some other ways to stretch the muscles in the front of your knees as well that don't require as much bending through your back. Now, one would be just to start up like this, keep your back in more of a neutral position, and pull the knee backwards. You may need to hold on to something to balance because this does get a little bit harder to balance that way. There's another way where you hang the leg over the side of the bed, and I can't show that very easily right here, but I'll link to another video that gives you that stretch. So again, if you have pain when bending your knee, either in the back or the outside or the inside or the front of the knee, what's causing it depends really on where the pain is, and the solution to it is basically just the opposite of the problem. So if there's a muscle that's too stiff on the outside or on the front, you want to stretch it. If you're getting excessive movement, for example, too much going in that way, you want to control that abnormal movement so that you are getting more of a straight bending and straightening of your knee rather than a twisting motion, which your knee's not really designed to do. So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, give it a like or thumbs up. And if you need more help for knee pain, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to help you. Thanks and have a great day.